What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today, Zach attacks Superman. James Gunn Superman 2025. No spoilers. If you just want to know what my general thoughts are for the movie, I'm going to start that right now. Now. Right now. I'm starting. Superman. More like super gay guy. No, I'm just kidding. It's a fun blockbuster for the whole family. I know that sounds cheesy. I could see people taking their kids. I mean, when I went to go see it, there were kids in the theater. It's definitely very comic booky, not necessarily in a bad thing if that's what you're looking for. It's ripped right out of the pages of the comic, right out of an episode of Justice League Unlimited. It feels very fun and bright. And David Cornswet is a great Superman. I'm super excited to see what he does going forward. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane truly embodies Lois Lane. Does a great job of being that kind of hard-nosed reporter where you're kind of like, come on, just put your guard down. Stay a while. But David Cornswet plays an awesome Superman, plays an awesome Clark Kent. That dichotomy is great. They do kind of briefly talk about how people don't know Clark is Superman, which I thought was a great little inside joke. The movie starts very fast. Boom! Right out of the gate, you're right in the middle of the action. And this is definitely pure Superman. Obviously, we've seen Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, we've got Mr. Terrific. We've got all these great, like, kind of larger-than-life characters. But Superman and Lois are kind of the ones that kind of ground the film, I would say. There's a lot of fun and funny comedic timing in the movie. I was laughing and smiling pretty much throughout the whole thing. It's definitely a very stark contrast to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which I'm also a fan of that as well, but I think that it's swung completely the other way. So if you love the Snyder Man of Steel for its groundedness and its darker kind of tones, then you're going to hate this movie. But if you're a Superman fan and you liked watching the animated series as a kid, or any sort of iteration of Superman from the comics, you'll love this. This is fantastic. It's a whimsical world. It's got its own aesthetic. You know, James Gunn really went for it. I will say at times, though, I felt like I was watching an acid trip or watching a movie on an acid trip. There was some stuff that I'm like, whoa, oh, man, what? But all in all, it's a lot of fun. It's totally worth seeing on the big screen. I'm excited to see where James Gunn goes with the rest of the DCU. It sets up a whole world that we really haven't seen before in the MCU or any previous DCU properties. I mean, really any superhero film at all. We've never seen this kind of style or aesthetic. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes next. All right, with that all down, guys, now we're going to start with the spoilers. If you do not want to watch and don't want to be spoiled, I suggest you stop the video right now, go down, hit the like, subscribe, comment, and maybe even save this for later after you watch the film and see if you agree. So I'm just going to kind of go over some quick things. I don't really want to go into the entire movie. That's going to take way too long. I'm just going to go over some of the things that I liked, I didn't like, and story and plot elements of the film. So I did like that they kind of set up, there's been superheroes for 300 years. They start that at the beginning of the movie. That's pretty cool. And then Superman's been a superhero for about 3 of those years. And then we see the Fortress of Solitude. That was pretty cool looking. Very comic booky. That was like, whoa. There was like really no groundedness in that at all, which is fine. I understood the aesthetic that James Gunn's been trying to go for this movie. Krypto, a lot of fun. Very rambunctious throughout the film. We meet all the Superman robots. Those are a lot of fun and hilarious. And we meet none other than Superman's father via hologram, played by Bradley Cooper. The rumors were true. Then we meet Lex briefly, and I thought Nicholas Hoult did a great job as Lex Luthor. Someone online said that he was kind of emotional, and I was thinking about that later. I was like, you know what? He was kind of emotional towards the end, where he's like, jealousy is the only thing that keeps me going. And he's like mid-crying, which Nicholas Hoult does such a fantastic job playing this character, and what a dick Lex Luthor is. I almost want him to like be likable to some extent, but he has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He's just an asshole. Played brilliantly. We do meet the Hammer of Baravia, which we find out is played by Ultraman. It's just a bullshit scapegoat, all under the guise of Lex Luthor. I thought Ultraman was pretty cool and pretty menacing. You're kind of like, who the fuck is this guy? And then the engineer, I thought her powers were pretty interesting and cool. Aesthetically, she looked cool. But I thought it was a pointless character. Really no need for her. I mean, you could have just put any spy character in her role and it would have been fine. I think Ultraman could have taken Superman just as easy without her in it. But whatever. And then we meet all of Superman's buddies at the Daily Planet, which I really liked a lot of the Daily Planet stuff. I almost wanted to see more of that. I love Clark's interaction with Jimmy Olsen. I really wanted more of that. That looked like it could be a lot of fun, them like as best buddies. I've always wanted to see that on screen, so it was really cool to see. And then Clark's relationship with Lois, trying to hide that he's Superman. So at this point, she knows he's Superman in this film. But I thought that was really cool, and he talks about it later when they have their little discussion at her apartment. I thought their relationship was really sweet throughout the film. Obviously, in the beginning, it's kind of like tumultuous. They're not really sure how they feel about each other. And obviously in the end, they do, kiss and they fall in love, whatever. Say I love you to each other, which we all saw that coming. I love you too, Clark. Yeah, okay. No shit. He's Superman. He's jacked, he's ripped, he's handsome. He's got all the powers. I would love him too. So the Daily Planet crew is great. And then we meet the Justice Gang, or an asterisk next to the Justice Gang. We got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. Now, I've never really watched or seen much of anything with Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. But I have to say, anything Nathan Fillion is, I'm on board for. And Nathan Fillion knocks it out of the park as a kind of dickish Green Lantern. Super fun, super funny. I love that he's like eating cereal and drinking milk. I guess that's like a comic accurate thing. I wasn't too crazy about his powers, the way it looked on screen. I was like, honestly, I'm probably going to get hate in the comments, but I kind of like the way Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern looked a little bit better in terms of like the use of the power. Also, wasn't crazy about his suit in this movie, but I'm sure they're going to divulge into that a little bit later in some other films and shows. Has a great relationship with Isabel Mercado, I think, or Mercado something, or the other, who plays Hawkgirl. I love their little dynamic, almost like a brother and sister. She's like, oh, give it up, Guy. We didn't really get to see too much of her abilities. She just had the mallet, and I'm pretty familiar with that from Justice League Unlimited and even the regular Justice League show, but she just screams and hits people with a giant mallet. I did notice that she killed that guy, which I'm like, does she murder people? I don't know. And then Mr. Terrific, which I thought was also a great character in this. He has kind of a deadpan sense of humor, and his abilities are pretty sick. I love the scene where Lois and Mr. Terrific go into Lex's little camp where they have that portal, and he's like walking up and everyone's like, oh, it's just a smart black guy, who gives a shit? And he's like, watch this, bruh. And he just starts murking all of them. I kind of wish that fight scene was a little bit better. I thought the music was great, but like some of it was just kind of like, okay, just giant metal balls just running into people. It wasn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where Yondu has the arrow. It felt very reminiscent of that, but not as cool. I still thought it was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed it. All in all, I thought the Justice Gang was cool and fun. I liked that they kept making a joke. They're like, that's not our name. That's not our name. And then at the very end when Metamorpho's like, that's a pretty cool name. He's like, you're in. I was cracking up at that. That was so funny. And then Superman gets arrested. He goes to the pocket dimension and we meet Metamorpho. Now, this was a part of the story that I thought was really going to get me emotional, because I was expecting Superman to pull at the heartstrings and the humanity of Metamorpho, because he looks crazy and ridiculous. And I thought maybe Superman would be like, hey man, like it doesn't matter what you look like. It's all about saving people and helping everyone. But that didn't happen. Lex Luthor just murks some dude right in front of Superman and Metamorpho and just kills him, which that made Lex even more menacing, which I did thoroughly enjoy. And Metamorpho's like, oh, you killed some guy I don't know. I'll help you now. It's like, bruh, he's Superman. You could have just done that from the beginning. But because someone died, now you're all like going to be heartbroken. I don't know. It felt so rushed and fast. And I thought there could have been more connection between Superman and Metamorpho and having more of like a conversation. And I understand he had kryptonite and couldn't really speak and he was all jacked up on it. Whatever. I know all that, you know. And I don't want to make it seem like I hated this movie, because I didn't hate it. There's just some things that I was expecting going in, and that's on me. Superman breaks out, saves little CGI baby Joey, which was kind of bizarre. I'm like, there's no way that kid didn't get fucked up or get whiplash while he's like in that pool of pure acid or whatever it was. That was wild. I thought it was cool that Metamorpho used his power to like create gas and like poisonous gas or whatever and like burn all of Lex's goons. But his head just like floating, I was like, all right, you're taking me out, man. This is where the acid trip started to hit me. I'm just like, oh, what? What? And then Superman escapes, like yada, yada, yada. We see him go to his parents' house with Lois in the T-ship. And I thought all of this stuff with the parents was pretty great. I honestly kind of wanted to see more of that. And I know that James Gunn didn't want to do another origin story, but honestly, this movie altogether kind of felt like a Superman sequel, which is fine. I'm not against that at all. I love jumping right into the action. But for me personally, I wouldn't have minded a little bit of an origin. I think it would have set up the characters for me better maybe, or had more of an emotional connection. But seeing his parents and his mom and his dad and, you know, him saying like, son, it's not about where you came from or, you know, all that. It's about what you choose to do. Your actions make you who you are. And I think that's so important, especially now, to have a theme like that in such a film because, yeah, it's true. Your actions do make you who you are. And that is what Superman is all about. He does the right thing when it's the hardest thing to do. So I thought all the interactions with the parents was great, and Lois kind of gets to see where he came from and all of this stuff and understands him a little bit better. Now at the climax of the film, we see Lex opens up that rift between the Pocket Universe, and Superman has to save the day. He has to kind of choose between that and the Baravian government starting a war and killing all those people, which I thought was cool that the Justice Gang was like, fine, we'll show up and help. After at the beginning, they were like, you can't be doing that stuff, man. You can't just show up on foreign soil and start a war. But it's like, you're a hero, man. People's lives are what matter more than politics. So Superman goes to save the day. And then, of course, Ultraman and the engineer chick show up. And they're like, let's fight, dude. They crash into like the baseball stadium, whatever. And she like shoots her little nanites into his mouth and eyes and like into his lungs, and I was like, oh shit, he might actually get fucked up. I thought Mr. Terrific was gonna like come in and like help save him, and then he just takes off and starts flying straight up, right? And I'm like, oh shit, smart, dude. He's gonna get right up next to the sun, burn off all the nanites. Simple. Wrong. He just flies up, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna fall now, and then he crashes, and then he's able to throw up all the nanites. Dumb. I didn't like that. I understand it's a comic book movie. There are things that I have to be okay with and things that I have to go, all right, I'll let that slide. A man can't fly. I know that. All these things I'm aware of. I just didn't like that. And that's okay if you liked it. There's nothing wrong with that. I personally thought it was a little bit too easy for him to just choke all that stuff up and vomit it up just by crashing into the ground. And then the one-on-one fight with Ultraman. Ultraman comes out of the ground. He rips his mask off. Boom! I thought it was going to be Henry Cavill, honestly. I really did. I will say, David Cornswet with long hair looks like Henry Cavill. It's just a clone of Superman. Lex tells his whole plan and says, hey, you're a clone. I got some of your hair, yada, yada, yada. Also, didn't really care for that. I was like, okay, so Lex can just clone him that easily? I don't know. It might be a setup for like a Superboy, which I think would be awesome. You know, he fights Ultraman, and then, of course, here comes Krypto once again to save the day. I smiled. I liked it. He's like, Krypto, fetch, or whatever. That was fine. Like, it was cute. I understood all of it, and I appreciated it for what it was. But I think in my mind, I wanted something different, maybe. I wanted to feel this strong sense of emotion for, like, Superman, like, using all of his strength to persevere. And I didn't really get that from the movie. But all the fight scenes were great and fun. And while all this is going down, Lois and Jimmy and the rest of the crew from the Daily Planet are on the T-ship, and they're typing away to try and drum up all the evidence that they found from Lex's girlfriend about how to take Lex down and what he was really trying to do. And I thought that was cool. I love that they use reporting to actually take down Lex, because Superman alone can't just be like, he's a bad guy. And they took him down through great journalism and the power of friendship. No, I'm just kidding. But I thought it was great. That was cool. I really liked that aspect of it. When Superman finally defeats Ultraman and that bus comes down, like smacks right into him, I thought that was badass. And then he went into that wormhole. And my thought was like, all right, I know from the comics, classic Ultraman is a Superman variant from another universe, but he's evil. I'm wondering if this is setting up the true Ultraman. I'm thinking he goes through that black hole, lands on another Earth somewhere. We see this character way down the line. He's got the real suit, and he's all decked out, and he's ready to fuck shit up. So if we ever see a Crisis on Infinite Earths or some sort of storyline that involves any sort of multiversal travel, I think we might see this Ultraman pop up later. I think James Gunn did that on purpose, because we don't actually ever see him die. We just see him go into a black hole. And for all of us comic fans and superhero movie fans out there, we all know, unless they show us the death, they're not dead. And in the end, Superman saves the day. The bad guys go to jail. At the end of the film, we do see a quick glimpse of Supergirl, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know that I needed to see it. It felt a little forced, if I'm being honest. I thought it was kind of funny that he called him a bitch. He was like, "See you later, bitch." He's like, "She likes to get drunk on other planets." I'm like, okay. I don't really know that I needed that, but I get it. You know, it's fun. I do think that overall, for me, I'm going to give the film a 7 out of 10. I had a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait to see what James Gunn does for the future of the DCU. I do think, for me personally, it might have been a little too comic booky. I understand as someone who loves comic books and who loves the MCU and pretty much any iteration of most any character, whether it's animated, I just value the fact that I was able to see a version of a character that I think is so cool and fun across the board. For me personally, it didn't hit on all cylinders, but the majority of the film I thought was great. I'm definitely going to go see it again. And look, I don't want to say any of this to make people think that my opinion matters more than anyone else, because it doesn't. Film is subjective, and movies all hit us in different ways. As far as the post-credit scene, they show Superman on the moon with Krypto. That was super cute. I love that. That was so sweet and endearing. And then the last post-credit scene shows Superman and Mr. Terrific side by side, and they're looking at, after they've pieced together the whole city, the building was like slightly off. And he's like, "Hey, look at this. Kind of off, huh?" And honestly, I get it was supposed to be a comedic moment, but I think there might be more to this. I think this might be setting up some sort of multiverse or some sort of rift in the fabric of reality. Because Mr. Terrific did mention this earlier in the film. And as far as I know, from what I've seen in the Peacemaker trailer for season 2, there might be some sort of multiversal shenanigans going on. And this might play a big factor in that show. So definitely go check out Superman. Let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe you have great responses to some of the things that didn't really work for me, and you can help me understand them better. But thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Please, I love movies. I love talking about movies, and I love superheroes. So if you like any of that stuff and you want to see more, hit like, subscribe, comment, and have a good one, man.